Hello there class. I thought I'd make this video to do a little recap on what we've done already with Sidewalk. So I'll just bring this up here for you. Okay, so the short story that we've been reading is on the Sidewalk bleeding. Now this video I'm going to go over a lot of things that we've already done in class just as a little recap, and I'm also aware that a lot of you will have left jotters and things in school, so you might not actually have access to some of your really valuable notes that will help you with the end of unit assignment. Okay. So when we first started, our learning intention was to understand the theme of identity and prejudice, share our views and experiences, and listen and acknowledge others' views and experiences. Okay, we did this by sharing what identity meant to ourselves in a little mind map, and sharing what we would feel if people prejudiced against us because of our identity. Okay, now for identity, I asked you to think about what this word means to you. Does it mean family, your name, nationality, clothes, career choices, talents, interests, friends, hobbies, or music choices? For me personally, when I was at school, music choice had a massive influence on your identity, and people would kind of group together according to what kind of bands or artists or DJs or whatever they were into. And that formed a huge part of my identity when I was younger, and the same for many of my friends. I'm pretty sure people who are sporty and athletic, that might have a big impact on your identity as well. So if you were to pick one object to represent your identity, what would it be and why? Now, I do remember quite a few of you did this in class, and a lot of you selected things like dance shoes, a football, a computer game, things like that, things that you feel help to identify you. Okay, they form part of your identity. Now you drew the object, and under your image you wrote an explanation in one or two sentences explaining why you chose the object to represent your identity. If you haven't done this activity, it might be a good idea to pause the video and do this activity, or if you want to do it again just as a recap, feel free to do so. Okay. So what if that object was the only thing people judged you on? And what if there was a person who didn't like your shoes or your hair, and therefore they didn't like you? What if they wanted to hurt you because of that object? And is that really an acceptable way to treat people? Okay. Now you were asked to create a mind map thinking about these 4 questions. If you haven't done this, feel free to do this now. I would recommend it. If you did do it and you haven't got a note of it at home, if you want to do it again, feel free to do so. I don't personally need to see it from you, but it might help you with your notes moving forward. Okay, so then what we did is we had a look at the use of imagery within the text. Okay, a few of you might remember this. We watched a couple of videos. Okay, so your success criteria was I can explain how imagery makes me feel using colours, symbols and images, and explain why the writer has used this imagery. Okay, so this is where we did see, think, wonder. I can see, this makes me think, this makes me wonder. Okay, so if you haven't done this, you might want to do it now. Okay, I will play the clips again so that you can watch them. If you want to look it up again on YouTube, feel free to do that, guys. Okay. So then what I asked you to do is to copy this down, okay? So if you haven't done this, please do this now, because this really, really will help you, okay? Rain drilled his jacket and drilled his body. It's the use of that word drill, okay? So think back to the Mr. Bean video and what you thought about that. And think back to the rain, the video of the rain. Why do you think that heavy rain drilling, why do you think that the writer decided to use that, okay? So in order to really start thinking about answering that question, I want you to think about the colour and the symbol and the image that this quote makes you think of, okay? So for example, the quote might make you think of the colour blue or red, okay? I'm not really too bothered about what colour you choose, it's more how you explain why you chose that colour, okay? And the same with the symbol. With the symbol, I tend to go for things like like punctuation marks and emojis, or warning signs or things like that. What kind of symbol does it make me think of? And image, that's just what kind of picture does it create in your mind? Okay, what picture does this quote put in your head? Okay, if you want to pause this video at this point and do this activity, feel free to do that now. Okay, so looking at the quotation, what would you normally associate with a drill? Okay, there's lots of different words here, okay, and I do remember in class a few of you did come up with some really nice examples, okay, violence, destruction, there's a lot of these things, okay. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to copy this down, okay? Now, you'll remember that we did peel paragraphs before where you made your point, you gave evidence, you explained it, and then you linked it back to what you were analysing, okay? So the evidence, if you were looking at imagery, okay, would be rain drilled his jacket and drilled his body. And the explained part would be the weather is against Andy. It is as aggressive, powerful and painful as the gang member who stabbed him. I'd copy that down, guys, because that's a really good example. Obviously, when you're writing your own essay, you're not going to copy this one, but it gives you a good example there to work from. Okay. Now, the next thing that we looked at was the speaker in the story. The writer has us see the story from Andy's point of view, okay? Now, in pairs, we did discuss how the quote made us feel and why we think the author wanted us to feel that way, okay? And we wrote our responses underneath our CSIs, our colour symbol image, and we shared it with the rest of the class, okay? Again, if you haven't got your jotter at home, it would be a good idea to copy this down somewhere in your notes. It will help you with the end of unit assignment, okay? So the writer has us see the story from Andy's point of view to create strong sympathy for Andy, as the victim. And it teaches us the lesson that he learns because we're seeing everything from his perspective, okay? We feel what he feels, we see what he sees. Okay. So then what we did is we had a read of the short story and we summarised the key points in the opening paragraphs, okay? Now, summarising is a skill that you will be using next year when you go into fourth year. It is something that is in the National 4, National 5 curriculum. So this is really good practice for you guys. If you do this again, I think it would be a really good exercise for you to do. Again, I don't need to see it. I know that a lot of you did this in class. Most of you did this in class. But it is good practice. Okay. So you had 10 minutes to create a newspaper headline that summarised the events for the reader, and you used techniques such as alliteration and imagery to grab the reader's attention. Um, Again, that links into your persuasive and discursive writing techniques, which are really something that you will be working on when you move into fourth year, okay? Using alliteration and imagery to grab a reader's attention and to persuade them to your point of view, or to discuss something that you feel is really important, okay? So summarising, that's what we did in this lesson here, okay? If you want to pause and follow these instructions and do these exercises again, you can do. Okay, then what we did is we read the rest of the story and we had a little true or false quiz, okay? So I'll bring this up for you just now. If you want to do this true or false quiz again now, what I suggest you do is go and have a little read of the story, pause this video just now, have a read of the story, and then come back, because I'm going to move on to the answers now. Okay, so the main character is not 15 years old, but he is, the rival gang is called the Guardians, and he is in the Royals. Yeah. Sidewalk is a British term for pavement. That's not true. It's very much an American term. The story is set in the USA. And at the start of the story, Andy did not know that he was dying. I think he was in a bit of denial. The story mentions the Bronx and Staten Island, which are in New York. Yes, they are. Andy's jacket was royal blue. No, it was purple. Andy had left on his own to get cigarettes. That is true. Angela, Frankie and Laura are minor characters in the story. They do play an important part, but they are minor characters. The main character is, of course, Andy. Laura finds Andy's body at 1:05 midnight. And the cop doesn't care who Andy is. Okay, then what we did is we moved on to understand the use of characterization within the text. Now, I'm not too sure if you remember, but we did something called circle of viewpoints. So we explained the point of view for each character using the circle of viewpoints, and we did these in big mind maps and we put them up on the wall. I did advise some of you to take photographs of them if you were able to at the time, but if not, maybe try and do one of your own, and again, it adds to your notes and it'll be really helpful for you. So this is how you do your circle of viewpoints. You would have the event here. So an example would be finding Andy stabbed, okay? So this is them finding Andy stabbed, okay? So we have the drunk, you could have the old lady, you could have Freddie and Angela, you could have Laura, you could also have the cop there as well, okay? So you could do a circle of viewpoints. How did each of these people view this event? How did they react to it? Okay, so for each of the characters, the best way to do that is to answer the following question for each of them. Okay, so how did the drunk feel when they saw Andy? What did the drunk want to do, and what made them want to do that? How did the drunk feel towards Andy? And what I would like you to do is try and find quotes to back up as many of your answers as possible. Okay, so again, pause the video and have a look at that exercise. Okay, now in class you did discuss this in pairs. Obviously at home you've not really got the opportunity to do that unless you fancy having a little FaceTime or video chat with one of your classmates. I'm pretty sure would rather be discussing other things. But if you want to do that, I would be delighted. Okay, so do you think the young couple made the right decision? And what were their reasons? Do you think they were morally right? And what if you were Andy? What would you do? What if Andy was your friend or brother? Okay, you could have a video chat with somebody and discuss that if you wanted. Um, or you can just have a little think about these things on your own. Okay, we then started looking at symbolism. Okay, I think this is roughly where we left off. Okay, so the learning intention in this lesson was to identify literary techniques and their purpose within the text and understand the main plot of the text. Okay, we're always trying to understand the main plot of the text. Okay, so the way that you showed this was to identify symbolism, onomatopoeia, alliteration, similes, and personification, and organise the text within a group in the correct order so that the story made sense. So we did like a sequencing activity. We had to resequence the story. Okay. Now, these are terms that you may want to copy down. Okay, feel free to pause the video at this point. Okay, and moving on. Okay. Okay, so you were all given these and they're all jumbled up and I asked you to put them in order. So if you want to do that, you can do, okay? So pause this video now and see if you can sequence this story in the right order and put a little asterisk where you think the turning point in the story is. Okay, you can pause the video now to do that. Okay, and moving on. Okay, here is your correct order. So again, if you want to pause this video and check, you'll also be able to see that the asterisk here shows that the turning point is when Andy starts to reflect on things, okay? He starts to reflect on his jacket, what it means to be 16 and in a gang. At this point, he finally realizes that he's lost his life for nothing, okay? I think it's at this point that he just kind of realizes, actually, I'm going to die now. He has this sudden realization where he accepts that he is going to die now. Up until this point, he's in denial. Okay, so when we're looking at symbolism, if a writer wants to help a reader understand deeper meaning in a story, he will or she will use symbolism. Okay, you may want to copy this down as well under your terminology. Symbolism is where a writer uses objects to show key ideas or emotion. So we have various symbols here. We have the knife, we have the jacket, and we have blood. Okay. Now in class we did discuss and look at what these things could symbolize. Here are a few examples, okay? So the knife symbolizes violence and aggression and hatred. The jacket is very much Andy's identity as a gang member. Okay, and blood, violence, innocence, and a waste of a young life. Okay, you did give some really good examples as well. So if you do have a note of these, brilliant. If not, you might want to do this activity again for your notes. Okay. Okay, so writers are experts at describing details in stories. To do this effectively, they use language techniques. Okay, and this is when we started looking at alliteration. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of this again. If you want to pause it and do She Sells Seashells by the Seashore, you can do, but I'm pretty sure by this point you all know what alliteration is. and you all did come up with one for your name, okay? What I would like you to do is see if you can try and find examples of alliteration in the short story, okay? If you can underline, if you weren't able to print out the story, then you can make a list of them, okay? Splat and all these little sounds here, they are all another technique. It's onomatopoeia, boom, okay? So what word would you use for these images? We did this in class as a little bit of practice so that you all knew what onomatopoeia was, okay? And you know what a simile is? It's describing something like something else. And personification, again, we know what this is. It's giving something, an inanimate object, human-like qualities. Things like making a chair behave like a human. So here are a few quotes for you. Okay, what I would like you to do is I would like you to try and match the technique to the quote. We did do this again in class, but I think it would be a good idea for you to have a note of this. So if you want to do it again, that's fine. Just pause the video and do it again. Just a note though, some of these things are more than one technique. So you might have like one of these things might be more than one. Okay, if you want to pause the video now. Okay, so as I said, more than one. The first one, the bubbling of blood. Okay, so baba is alliteration. We've got a repeating of the b, but it's also onomatopoeia because bubbling actually does sound like that blub blub blub, the bubbling sound. Okay, because as we know, onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like the action it's describing. The splash of neon, that's onomatopoeia with splash. Rain splattered, again onomatopoeia. The old lady carried an umbrella like a queen. Okay, so the lady is like a queen, the old lady is like a queen. That's a simile. The knife hated only the purple jacket. Well, knives don't have feelings. So that is very much personification. Okay. Okay guys, I'm going to stop here, okay, and then we will move on in the next video. I think that is us done with our recap of what we covered in class. Again, it is quite a long video. If you want to pause, rewind, watch it again and again, that's exactly what I've made it for. If you've got any questions, if you're unsure of anything, feel free to drop me an email, okay. But I hope this video has helped to recap what we did cover in class, so that when we move on, you are armed with all that knowledge and all your notes and things. Okay. Alright, take care guys, and I will speak to you soon.